So let's talk about the University of Chicago. You go there, and so does Mike Nichols. Who introduced you?
Paul Sills.
Yeah, you're in this group called The Compass. It's a comedy troupe. When did you have any idea that you were going to be a team? Because this troupe, you're doing improvisations with other actors. When did you kind of realize this is the guy for you as far as comedy is concerned?
Compass was sort of going to break up a little bit at that point. And Mike said, please come with me to New York and let's try to work there. So I did.
Now you come to New York, you try out, you audition for a great manager. We'll talk about him in the show. But most importantly, he gets you into the Village Vanguard, the Blue Angel. Were there any differences between those Chicago audiences and New York audiences? Do you remember?
Well, no, which was interesting because people said they're so intellectual. You know, who will grasp them? Everybody grasped us.
It was funny that the Times wrote that you guys had mob and snob appeal. Do you think that's true?
Well, we had snob appeal because we were from college, but we had mob appeal because we were just ordinary. But funny, yeah.
Well, you're doing that comedy act, and you break him up a lot. Did he ever break you up on any time?
Yes, he was very emotional. He was a really good actor, although he didn't think he was. And he laughed and cried very easily. He laughs very easily. And I did break up, but not like Mike.
Interesting that you do the nightclubs, you do damn well on it. You do television, you do terrific on it. You're now going to Broadway. You're in your 20s. What is going on? It must be unbelievable, this kind of success. Everybody wants you. Everybody's coming after you. Are you overwhelmed by it?
No, we were surprised because it was just what we'd done in Chicago. We had to keep taking those improv from the audience, and we'd ask for the first line and last line and what style.
Yeah, and you had to do a lot of reading every night. You had to keep up with the news when you were doing the Broadway show because you had to be on guard for something that was happening currently, no?
No, they thought that would be too easy for us. One night they yelled out an opera. Fortunately, Mike knew opera, but they wouldn't really. We managed because they tried to make it so difficult for us.
Yes.
And we had each other.
So you're on Broadway. You're there for many, many months, and you decide to leave. I was told that you couldn't stand doing the same thing night after night. Not true?
No, I couldn't. No. But it was, because we were out for about a year. And the only other person I know who couldn't really go on for more than, that he went on that long with was Alan Arkin in the thing you produced.
Oh, yeah, Power Plays.
Yes.
That you both were in.
And because we did it to work with our kids, he was Jeannie. And
he with Tony.
And when we were going on stage for the first time, he said, because he directed it and he wrote one, I wrote two, he directed three. And he said, you realize, as we walked up the stairs to the stage, that if we fail at this, we'll fail as actors, writers, directors, and parents. And it was a really overwhelming thought.
New Leaf is a terrific movie. You start out as the writer. The screenplay is written. Your agent sells it to Paramount. And do you want any approvals?
I want all approvals. I want the approval of director and cast because it's peculiar comedy about a murder. And they give me no approvals, but they said they would allow me to direct it.
So they won't give you any approvals, but the negotiation is you can have the approvals if you direct it. Is that
right? If I direct it, and they wanted to cast Carol Channing, and I said she's really wrong for this because she's too funny. So they said they would let me play it, but they wouldn't give me any approvals because they felt I didn't know enough. I just knew enough to direct it, and I knew nothing. I didn't know what a camera was. I had no idea what anything was, but I really wanted to be in charge of the director. I knew nothing. I didn't know that if you wanted to make a scene shorter, you had to have another angle. So when I went to edit it after the first week, I said, let's take some film out. It's too long. And my editor, who had also never done a movie but knew more than I did, said, well, you don't have another angle. And I said, God help me, what's another angle? What's an angle? But, I really, really have no idea how this man, Bluthorn, who really wasn't in movies, how he let me do this, why he wanted me to do this. I knew nothing. And the guy who was producing it really, for very good reasons, didn't want me to direct it. And he made it tough on me.
Tell me a little bit about you and Walter at the beginning. Did it work out right from the beginning?
He kept saying, you're a Goyle, you're a Goyle. He said, I'm not sure about the ending. And I said, I like you, and it would have been fun to work together, perhaps on something else. And they took me aside and said, no, you don't understand. he can't be fired. You can be fired. But Walter is the reason they're making this movie. You know, if you don't work with Walter, you don't make the movie.
When he came to you, he had already done The Odd Couple, a huge movie, Cactus Flower, a huge movie. So he was a big movie star at that point.
That's why they made the movie.
Yeah.
But he told me on himself, he told this joke. He said that he had argued with Mike about this and that, and that this and that. Everything was an argument. And he said, I said to Mike, you're cutting off my balls. And Mike said, props. And I thought that was such a great thing to tell on yourself.
That's how fast you and Mike could be.
But I did like him.
Oh, yeah.
I was very mad at him. And one day he said, you're mad at me, aren't you? And I said, here's the thing. I sometimes fantasize that you're lying on the ground, my face up or face down, and I'm in a little truck at your feet of the head. And I run the little truck over you, all the way over you, but I don't kill you because then it would be over. Then I back up all the way over you. Then I go forward again. And he said, so you are mad at me?
Well, let's talk about that big movie star who reads the script and calls you.
Oh, Cary Grant, yes.
Why
If
didn't
you don't know,
Why didn't he do the movie?
I couldn't change the end for him. And I didn't understand why he wanted it changed. He didn't want to go in the water. Just last week, I thought, is it that he didn't want to get his hair injured? Why wouldn't you want to go in the water? I mean, I had to say, I don't know how to change it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know how to change this so that, but once he was trying, it was too difficult. And I had to say, no, it was really sad.
It was sad to lose Cary Grant, but you got Walter Matthau.
And at the end of the movie, Walter Matthau said, I don't want to go in the water. I said, I gave up Cary Grant for you because you would go in the water. He was really good, but he really didn't want to go in the water, and we were at the water's edge.
And he did go in, though. Walter did go in.
He did go in finally,
Yeah.
but it was really long.
And you're not a great swimmer, and you went in.
Yes, of course, I had written it.
Yes, but I think as a director, you feel you can do almost anything at that point.
I think when somebody does a movie, they feel safe. They'll go up in a plane, they'll face a knife, they'll face a fire. You don't feel that anything can happen to you in a movie.
Yes. Well, the great thing about New Leaf, it's your first movie. You act in it, you write it, you direct it. It comes out. It's a commercial and critical success. And I want to leave it on that note.
This is foolish.
I'd read, is this true, that you started the Mikey and Nicky script at the University of Chicago?
Yes. I wrote it as a one-night play, and then I realized it would make a good movie. I didn't realize that it would be so difficult to make.
Was it a story that you knew from the neighborhood, from your childhood?
Part of it was. I'm not to tell exactly where it came from because it'll spoil the movie, but I knew the widow of the Mikey character. And my mom told the story a lot because they were her friends. And all of our friends were sort of, the gangsters. Not all of our friends. Some of them were just ordinary Jews.
Peter Falk is one of the leads. You had worked with him in Love. Was he always in mind for Mikey in your head while you were writing?
I don't know. I really don't. You don't really know what was in your mind at various times. You can make it up later on as you're writing your,
As people-
biography, but
As people do.
yeah.
When's the first time you met John Cassavetes?
I met him when he tried to give me $10,000 because he worked for, I think, Screen Gems, was it?
Yes.
And he'd convinced the guy who ran it to give $10,000 to various authors that they admired. How he did it, I don't know. And they didn't have to do anything. He would just give them the money. And I didn't know him. And he showed up at my house, and he came in and tried to give me $10,000. And I said, I really don't want it. He said, you really don't have to do anything for it. I said, I don't want it. I mean, it alarmed me that someone was offering me $10,000. He said, there's nothing to be done. This is just a gift. I said, I don't want it. I don't want it. And I made him leave. And then he wrote me a letter saying, I just want to tell you that I'm giving you I wanted to give you $10,000.
Knowing John as I did,
Yeah.
that probably endeared you to him. That would be something he would like. Let's talk about the fact that once again, the internet seems to have incorrect information.
Very well.
They say
Yes.
that lots of Mikey and Nicky was improvised. Will you set this record straight, please?
Well, none of Mikey and Nicky was improvised because you can't improvise something that's that tight a story. There wasn't anything dialogue that was said in the beginning that didn't happen in the middle or the end. So everything was a setup. You can't really improvise a story like that.
The hitman, you cast the hitman as Ned Beatty. He comes in, you have a meeting. Did you have any ideas that you were interested in?
Ned Beatty came in and said to the costume person, I'd like my pants to be a little too short. And I thought, oh, he knows exactly who this guy is. And he was terrific. He was terrifying and all, but his pants were a little too short. So it was just brilliant of him.
I think so, too. Well, you did cast a very interesting man, Sanford Meisner, who was a famed acting coach. I mean, he taught everyone from Diane Keaton to Gregory Peck to Bob Duvall to Steve McQueen. He had only made a couple of movies. What made you want Sanford Meisner?
I think I wanted him because I wanted someone who was in charge and who nothing could throw, who really knew, that he was going to kill the guy. And I just wanted somebody who was a very good actor, and I assumed that Sanford Meisner was. I also wanted Bill Hickey, but Sanford Meisner lost his voice, his entire voice box, and I couldn't loop the scene, so I couldn't loop him and Bill Hickey, which was a shame because they were great together. They were both acting teachers.
But they're in the movie, though.
Yes, but there was a lot of noise over their part of the scene, and I couldn't loop it because he didn't have a voice box.
Yeah.
It was a real shame. He was wonderful, Sanford.
Didn't a similar situation occur in Allentown in 47? Thanks for the memory. Let's get out of here fast.
One day, you called me and said, do you know that Bob Hope and Bing Crosby made movies together? I said, yes, I do. And I said, why are you asking? And you said...
I swear I don't know what I said. Now I'm interested. What did I say?
So I'm thinking that there might be a movie in this. I just thought that movie was your inspiration to do Ishtar.
No, actually, my inspiration to do Ishtar was that those movies with Hope and Crosby never had any American politics in, even though we owned all these little islands that they went to. And I knew that America was going into the Middle East. I mean, a few people knew it. The CIA was all over, and that they'd never get out of it. And so I thought of Ishtar.
In Ishtar, you kind of cast two people you had worked with before, Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman. Were they the people from the very beginning that you were writing?
Well, Warren and I landed. I mean, we wanted to do a movie together, and then we needed a guy who could be his buddy.
Well, you had worked with Warren in Heaven Can Wait, and you'd worked with Warren on Red, so you had your relationship. But Dustin was a later choice. Was it your idea or Warren's?
And I think we both wanted him. I mean, he was perfect for it. And he was such a good actor and so charming. And they were just a good team.
Come on. I don't think it's smart to keep walking out here in the desert.
We'll be there in a minute. If you're tired, ride the camel.
Riding?
What was the hardest part of making that movie?
You know, it was an oddly easy movie to make. And Dustin and Warren were... I mean, they're on this camel that you can't train. Dustin is thrown off, laying there, and we had a vulture in the scene come toward him. He was afraid of nothing else but the vulture.
Are those vultures? Yeah. You fainted. They thought you were dead. You mean they're here on Spank? Yeah.
The movie was the most fun movie I had because it was sort of an adventure movie. They're much easier to make than when two people are sitting and talking. And any movie in which there's a chase.
Now, I met, and I'm sure you got to know, some of the animal trainers that came over. Was the blind camel a real blind camel or not?
No.
I
don't think so.
Was it easy to shoot that, or did you have to do it a lot? I mean, a blind camel is really racking up the place.
Well, because it wasn't trained, it would go anywhere. This was what's great about these guys. We just let it go. It went into a cafe, but you couldn't train it. I mean, I think it's probably its master could train it, but two strange movie actors could not train a camel. And yet they just sat on it. And you didn't know who they were or what it was supposed to do. And they're not brilliant camels.
Remember this book John Huston says they're pretty mean. Did you remember them as being mean?
I think it was bewildered. I mean, they had to take it and pull it by not its leash, whatever it was. It didn't seem to be mean. It seemed to be not so much bewildered as unsure.
Yeah, it's what it was supposed to do.
Why it was doing it.
Hello, Morocco, you're equally pretty.
After Ishtar, you kind of stopped directing movies. Why?
You know, that's always a difficult question. I mean, after you saw Susan for so long, then you stopped dating her. Why? I wanted to work with Mike, and he wanted to work with me. And
Oh, you did 2 great movies together in Birdcage and Primary Colors, and we're talking about you writing and Mike Nichols directing, yes.
I think that was the end of the 20th century when we did that. And it was the hardest movie I've ever written.
I can tell you why, in my opinion.
Go on.
That book does not lend itself to a movie.
It doesn't lend itself. But Mike said, I don't know how I bought it. He and John Kelly had bought, and he said, now I own it. And I don't know, and I had no idea. To make that movie into a movie was really difficult.
Well, let's talk about one thing.
Yeah.
You won the British BAFTA Award. You won the best screenplay for Primary Colors. So you did something right as far as the British were concerned.
Well, I was told by a really good actress that in Britain, they give you the award when the movie doesn't really gross. So